Hi, everybody. This week's Devo is found in James chapter 1, verses 19 to 20, and it says this: Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger, for the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Now, I've said before that I think that times of quarantine and self isolation tend to not bring out the best of us. And with the added tension and stress that we're all living under in times such as these, I think we're just a little bit more likely to be arguing and fighting with the people we care about most. Underlying issues before the pandemic that we might have been able to be okay with because we could have enough distance from one another, well, that distance is gone. We might be socially distancing with others, but in our homes, we're in it together all day long. I bet you sometimes it feels like we're trapped. And so these issues start to boil to the surface and we start to get into disagreements and they can get heated. Well, if you're in that situation, whether it's with parents or children or spouses, I think James 1:19 to 20 is great for all of us to hear. And James tells us some ideas about how to avoid that situation. And it starts off by saying, be quick to listen. I think that's one of the hardest things when we're in a disagreement. We don't want to listen. We want to explain to the other person how right we are. And if we'll just show them and they'll listen to our words, then they'll just fall on our feet at our feet and say, "You were right all along. I'm completely wrong." And so our goal is often just to tell them the truth. But a little bit of humility makes us realize, you know what? There's a lot of things I'm wrong about, and this might very well be one of them. Maybe I'm totally convinced I'm right, but if I hear them out, they'll raise a point I hadn't thought of because I haven't thought of everything. And so I'm going to give them the respect. I'm going to have the humility to actually hear them out in the middle of a disagreement. It's hard to do when you're upset, but it's really important. In fact, be quick to do it. Work toward this. And as you're listening to the person, you're genuinely trying to understand. You're asking clarifying questions, not rhetorical questions, which are really just a way of attacking their position, but real questions that are based on curiosity because you love the person, you respect them, you know that people don't have opinions for no reason at all. If that's what you think of your family members, you've got some real repenting to do. There's a reason they're thinking and behaving the way they are. So try to discover it. Maybe you don't know it as well as you think you do. And you might say to yourself, some things happen in our mind when we're in the middle of a disagreement. We say, "Oh, I've heard it all before. We've had this argument 100 times." Well, if they're still holding to their position, maybe there is something in your argument that isn't quite as great as you think. Or maybe they keep repeating the same thing because you're not really getting it. You don't really understand them as well as you think. So have the humility to listen to them. Maybe their arguments changed since the last time you had that. Maybe they've come up with some new ideas. So give them a chance. Listen to them. And when you're listening, genuinely focus on what they're saying. Don't be formulating your next response. Most of us aren't smart enough or clever enough to really concentrate on what someone's saying and also be thinking of something else at the same time. If you're like me, you're pretty much linear and you're thinking one step at a time. And so if you're thinking of that response, you're not really listening to them. You might as well not be pretending to listen at all. So we're not listening to come up with a counter argument. We're not listening for our turn to speak next. We're listening to genuinely understand their position because we love and care for them and they deserve that respect from us. And when we're quick to listen that way, they're going to be quick to listen too. It's not just about being quick to listen. We're also going to be slow to speak. So that brilliant sarcastic response, the first thing that comes to your mind, hold off on that. You know, that sharp retort, that angry response, hold off. We can sin through our careless words so easily. So if we're quick to listen in response, we're also going to be slow to speak. Because if you're listening, you're not going to be talking. And so work on listening and work on holding your tongue when a disagreement comes up. Really give the person a chance to speak. Because often the first thing that comes to our mind is not exactly a godly thing. So when you're not speaking first, maybe you're not listening, but give yourself a moment and really check what you're about to say. Run it through that grid with the Holy Spirit in prayer and ask yourself, is this really what God would have me say in this moment? If that's a little weird and you have to pause for a second, that's better than saying something awful because you had to speak quick. have that pause. Be careful, because our first response is often sinful, but if we bring it before the Lord and we ask Him to bless us in this conversation, He's the one that can make our words life-giving and building people up, like I talked about in my last Devo. That's what our goal is. And so if we follow those first two steps of listening, really listening to what the person is saying in humility and genuine curiosity, and then not saying the first words that come to mind. And even if that means walking out of the room, not passive aggressively, where you're kind of like, I'm going to punish you now just for not agreeing with me. I'm going to pretend you don't exist for the rest of the day. That's so immature. We don't want to be like that. But if you need to walk away because you're just so heated, then tell them, I'm really upset right now, but you know what? I love you too much and I care about a relationship too much to risk saying a careless word. That stops it from being that passive aggressive nastiness, right? And so these little things can help and go a really long way to improving the atmosphere. If it's been getting a little bit heated in your house, work on it, take responsibility for it, and have your words speak love and give life and be truthful, but in positive ways. That's what we want. And how does we do that? Well, in the midst of an argument, make sure that you're quick to listen. Make sure that you're slow to speak, and make sure that you're slow to be angry. May God bless us. And next time we're in a bit of a disagreement, see it as an opportunity to learn to listen better and speak less. God bless you this week.